Well, hello guys. So while Iefke is working on the skin on frame dinghy and skinning that in preparation, I'm going to just talk about the interior of Tarkine. It's probably a bit of a lucrative thing. I mean, not many people, I don't know if many people have sort of got their head around how the layout below decks is. We haven't followed plans for our whole interior fit out. The plans we received, they just weren't right for us and our cruising style and what we wanted to do while we were sailing and cruising. So we modified a lot and moved a lot of stuff around and redrew a lot. But as you've probably noticed through our YouTube channel, is that we develop ideas or get an idea of a space through mocking up and building and talking through the process and where things are going to go and what the limitations are for various areas, you know, what you have to forsake in the name of something else to be fit in an area. So I'm not sure if it's a slow process. It's definitely slower than having plans and knocking it all in and knowing where everything's going. But for us it was really valuable to sort of have an open, clean boat and then begin with bulkheads and installing bulkheads and sort of shuffling them around so we know where the space will be for us. One big thing for us was our double bunk. So the stock plan had a V-berth in the bow, and we've both sort of had traumatizing experiences of V-berths, having to throw yourself in and dive for the bunk, and it just makes life less comfortable. I think the important thing when we're cruising and when Tarkan sailing is that we're living, we're not working to get to places on board the boat. So we actually have a living space and our bunk is substantial enough and big enough to be comfortable and you don't have to worry. At sea we have smaller bunks around the boat so that we can sort of share and mix and hot bunk if we need to, so then you're not rolling around as much. Another one we learnt on tall ships was in a larger bunk, if you are rolling around, you can sort of roll your mattress up, put some pillows under it and create yourself a little round cocoon to hide in, and that's worked tremendously in the past for us. So yeah, our double bunk is what's referred to, I think, as a Pullman's berth. It's located give or take midships, access full to the side of the bunk, and we can sort of get in and out very easily because the skylight is mounted above our bunk. So our cabin or our living quarters are within the skylight perimeter, and that will give great light. We can have a canvas cover if it's giving too much light, and then we can stand up freely and comfortably. A big one for us on board was to have deck space. We wanted a cabin that was small enough to create a big feeling on deck. You obviously forsake the interior fit out and the space and the feel it gives off below decks, but on deck you feel like you have a bigger, open, clearer deck space for working, and that was really important to be able to walk around the deck and not have to sort of duck around the shrouds and all that kind of thing. So we found that important, but that led to having a smaller cabin and the skylight instead of one full cabin, which was in the design. So we split it with about a 300 foot gap between skylight and cabin, so that you have a free walkway if you need that as well, or someone to put a life raft comfortably down low, and we want it all as low as possible as well. So our big driving force was the appearance on deck from when you are walking alongside on a jetty or something and you look at it. And then below decks there's still plenty of space for a 41 foot 16 ton boat. We feel like the living space will be perfect, So from our Pullman's berth, the midships, we work forward and there's the heads. Now this is quite a large section. It's a pretty big space for as far as heads go. We'll have a shower with a well, so that'll get pumped out, and then the actual toilet off to one side. It was important for us in the design that heads was actually in the main cabin near the saloon, and that's just not a comfortable feeling of going to the toilet when you're so close to the living quarters. So having the heads up forward and out of the way, it's not all the way forward, so you won't be pounding too much in a sea. It's still about the mast, around the mast spot. Then at least you can have privacy when you go to the toilet. And that's quite important once again for living on board a boat, is to be able to go to the toilet and tend to your needs in privacy, which is important for a lot of people to have privacy. So that's quite nice. And from forward of the heads is what we call the bosun's locker or the chain locker. That's quite an open area. We have the well for the chain that we put in, the two Samson posts go down to the keelson and are bolted through a floor and frames. And then to the starboard we have the workbench. That was important for me to have a workbench, just a small one on board, and Iefke, so that we can facilitate repairs and do little jobs underway, which is quite nice, and that's good for sort of the mental capacity on board, is to keep yourself entertained with nice little jobs and improvements, because everyone knows a boat is never done and it's never complete, so you'll always be perfecting along the way. So a workbench can facilitate a lot of stuff there. And on the port side there'll be a holding tank for the heads mounted up higher, so you have gravity fed down and you can pump out from the top. There's also a hatch mounted above the heads which will have a little skylight in it, so that'll give plenty of light. And then forward in the bosun's locker is a touch dark, but with some lighting it'll be alright. Our saloon and living cabin is fairly compact as far as cruising boats go, I think, but that you can still sleep someone on the saloon bunk, on the saloon couch, and opposite that is a straight galley running fore and aft. Now I know that's quite unconventional and a bit of a tricky topic for a lot of people, but with our space below decks, that was sort of the only way we could make it work and make that cabin sort of as spacious as possible without forsaking too much. So the fore and aft galley, and then aft of the galley will be a quarter berth, and then on the port side aft we have the chart table, so that from the companionway hatch or the helm position someone can reach down, look down, check the charts, or talk to the navigator if you're in a high intense situation. And then the good communication out the hatch will be quite easy then, with a chart table close by and a navigation area. And aft of the nav area will be batteries, systems, electronics, inverters, all the solar regulators, all that sort of stuff that fits into that. So we've left ourselves a fair bit of space to work with the electronics. Our only difficulty now is finding a spot up there that's not too high for the diesel tanks. We're going to have a tank either side. We just don't want to raise that centre, of gravity too much up. We want to keep the weight down low, so we'll see how we go there. Okay, well I think that's sort of everything I can explain about our interior fit out. I hope that sort of clarifies a bit of stuff down below. I know you guys may think that we work in a bit of roundabout circly way, but that's how we keep it fresh and sort of keep ourselves engaged in the project. When it's only the two of you building a boat as substantial as this, it's really important to sort of keep the flow going and try and keep yourself engaged and happy in the project. There's always bad jobs and there's always good jobs, and it's quite important to sort of balance the bad from the good so that you're still having fun while you're doing it. So we often do work around in circles a little bit, chasing our tail in areas, and the same goes for winter to summer. In winter you can't use epoxy as much or paint or things like that, so we focus on other areas of the boat that don't need that, and then in summer it's sort of high voltage, epoxy, fiberglassing, all that stuff that is going to be okay during the warmer months. So it's quite seasonal how we build as well as keeping the happy factor going on board. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this little instalment here. Soon to come is lifting our engine. That'll be up. And there's a few areas you may see in this video that are already built or something, but that's going to follow through with YouTube and our channel, and you'll see how we build that and our thought process on organising areas and construction and all that sort of stuff. That's quite interesting. So the idea behind this skin-on-frame dinghy is that we're selling shares through our website. The link will be below in the description. You click on there, you can purchase a share or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. And then in a couple of months' time, when we announce, we will randomly draw a custodian for this dinghy, and they will be the sole custodian of the dinghy. So it's just our way of raising funds for Tarkine and to get her sailing. So this skin-on-frame dinghy is designed by Geodesic Aerolights. It's 10 foot long, so it's quite a nice length. It's it's all hardwood, so basically Tas oak from Tarkine. The offcuts of the strip planking were used for the stringers and ribs. The stem here is plywood, and the transom is actually laminated myrtle, which is very pretty. We started off like most dinghies with moulds and set them on a strong back at stations. We notched in our stringers and set them all in fared it into the stem and the transom, and then we worked with a steam box. We had a steam box for a day and we steamed our ribs in. They went in very nicely. We used a steam bag actually attached to a beer keg with a fire underneath. The beer keg was full of water obviously. That would start to boil and all the moisture, steam would go into the bag and then circulate around the ribs. We'd steam a couple at a time and then pop them out, put them in around the rib ends there. We would just clamp them in until they set and then come back with epoxy later and dab a bit of epoxy in there, a little fillet to hold it together. And then we moved on to the diagonal roving. So that's Kevlar diagonal straps with heat and bond tape. So it really helps the twisting motion of the boat and gets it very strong and rigid. It'll be a triple lamination gunnel. So that's quite strong up there. We've got the seats already ready in there, and the thwarts, sorry. And then now we're gonna try and get the skin on, which could be fun.
Holy smokes, this is the coolest. This is the coolest. The coolest. I wish building our boat was this quick. Wish building our boat was this quick. Scary business, Ovi. Scary business. A lot of this project has been one go wonder. I only do it once. Scary. So pretty though. Can't believe it. This bit needs to be a bit tighter. Oh my god.
Our patrons are amazing, we love them. And what we're offering is, if you sign up to our Patron account in the next month, you will automatically become a shareholder and have the chance to become the sole custodian of this dinghy. So if you sign up for our Patron, big or small, doesn't matter, we will automatically give you a share in the dinghy and the potential to become the sole custodian of this beautiful dinghy. So please have a look at our Patron page. The support is amazing and it really keeps it going. And this is a great opportunity for people. So thanks.